Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3746BN. Today's date is October 6th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Deep State is Fighting Back. They're forming the insurrection. Trump set up the path to destruction. Now, I don't know if you know this, but gold has gone mainstream. You're seeing it everywhere. Prices are climbing. Every day, more and more Americans are catching on to the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold investments come in. Noble Gold specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do. Whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA, or you want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. You'll get step-by-step guidance, transparent pricing, and U.S.-based service from teams that handle over $2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. Visit x22gold.com today to claim your free wealth protection kit. That is x22gold.com. Noble Gold is helping you build a stronger future, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, we knew eventually they were going to fight back with everything that they have. And you have to remember, we are still at war. The war has not ended. Did we win the war? No. So the deep state players, every step of the way, they're going to be fighting back. And that's what we're seeing right now. And I do believe it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. It doesn't mean the patriots aren't in control. It just means that Trump is leading them down this path, and why interfere with an enemy while they're in the process of destroying themselves? We've always known that these individuals, they were going to push an insurrection. Actually, they already did. They did this during 2020 and on January 6th. But this insurrection is going to be very, very different, because this is going to be in the insurrection where people are going to see it is truly them. You see, before, what they did when they created the insurrection on January 6th, they hid behind we the people and shifted the blame on we the people. This time around, Trump and the Patriots, they want everyone to know who the insurrectionists actually are and who's funding the insurrectionists. Remember, timing is everything. So I do believe what Trump and the Patriots are doing right now is they're allowing the enemy, the deep state players, to do what they do best. They're forming the insurrection. We don't want 2 or 3 people over there, 3 people over there, 1 person over there. We want the funding to increase. We want those individuals that are going to guard the insurrectionists. We want them out front and center. And we want all of these people to set up shop in all these different cities, come out into the open, set up shop, make sure that we can find you, bring the illegals, bring the criminals. We want everyone in the middle of the street. Because how else do you clean it all up very, very easily? This is why Trump has been positioning the National Guard. This is why he's getting everything prepared. And not just that, but he's making sure that he has the rulings from either the federal courts or the Supreme Court, which I do believe that's what he's going to get. Now, every step of the way, we are now seeing these tyrannical judges. They are now protecting the insurrectionists. This is why they're ruling against Trump. Now, every step of the way, what is Trump going to do? He's going to appeal this, and he's going to win, and he's going to set a precedent in the ruling that he gets, which is going to allow him to have the National Guard in their cities. Remember, the deep state players, they don't want the National Guard in their areas. They want the insurrectionists. They're part of the insurrection. So when you're scratching your head going, I don't understand what Pritzker's doing. I don't understand what the mayor of Portland's doing or the governor of Oregon's doing. You have to remember, they're part of the insurrection. They are part of the deep state players. Am I saying they're the deep state players? No, they're the low-level people that they're taking instructions, they get paid off, and they're being told what to do. And they know that if they don't have these illegals in their cities, they're going to lose the votes. Remember, these are the constituents. So, yes, we are still at war. That has not ended. And this is just one part of the war. Think about the other part of the war that the deep state players are trying to start. That is World War III. It's part of their 16-year plan. Trump knows exactly what they're doing, but he's leading them down this path. And this path is the path to destruction, because that's what's going to happen in the end. Remember, Trump would never, ever be able to do any of this unless he had the people. And think about how he got the people on his side. He needed the people to walk through the crap. For 4 years with the Biden administration, which is really the Obama administration and those other people that were in his administration that were actually running the country at the time, he needed them to do everything that they had planned to do according to the 16-year plan. This was the only way to wake the American people up. And now you're seeing the insurrectionists, which is now waking a lot of people up, because when you see these people defending the illegals and going after ICE, going after the National Guard, going after the people that are trying to deport these individuals. Remember, we voted for this. The country voted for this. And when you see these people pushing back, they're actually pushing an insurrection against this country. And what do you think this is going to do? This is going to bring more and more people to the side of Trump as things get worse. They're not going to get better right away. They're going to get worse. And I think Trump is counting on this because he needs the power of the patriots, the power of the people. That is the strength. That is what he uses against the deep state players. You have to remember, the Ds, the fake news, the deep state players, they don't have the people on their side. The only people that are rooting for them are Antifa, the criminals on the streets, and the illegals. The rest of the country is looking at them going, yeah, we're not behind you this time around. Good luck. We're on the other side. And if you keep doing this and you're going to have these people burn down the cities, you're going to have these people hurt citizens of the cities, we're not on your side. And Trump is counting on this. He's not counting on them to hurt people, but he's counting on the people to see this, the people to say, you know what, enough is enough. Just like when you had the people coming over the border, people said enough is enough. That's what's happening right now. And remember, we are still at war. The deep state players, the swamp, they're going to fight back to the very end. If you thought, oh, Trump was elected and everything was going to be perfectly fine and everything was just going to go back to the way it was, I don't know what way that was. We were always infiltrated by the deep state players. But again, they're fighting for their lives. Trump is going after them. He's hunting them down with the power of the people. So yes, are you going to see these individuals attack ICE? Are you going to see it get worse in each one of these cities? Are you going to see the governors, the mayors, and many other people tell you how they really feel? I mean, we're already starting to see this. Yes, these people, they're not holding back anymore because they're becoming frustrated. They're becoming angry. And I do believe Trump and the Patriots, this is what they want the people to see. They want the people to see who the true insurrectionists are. They want the people to see that these people are not capable of holding office. And as they pretty much reach a point where they can't take it, I'm talking about the deep state players, they're going to lash out and they're going to say things that I don't think people are going to believe. And then once they say it, the people are going to say, I don't think these people should be in office. They're a little nutso. They want people dead. This doesn't make any sense. And we know that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the FBI, the DOJ, they're now tracking all the funding. I mean, what do you think is happening right now? Trump is allowing Antifa to do what they do best. Actually, what the deep state players do, let them do what they do best. Because if you allow Antifa to build and build and build, they got to get the funding someplace. Someone is funding them. And all you got to do is track the funding. Why shut it down now? You don't want it shut down. Yes, you're going to bring the National Guard in and you're going to pre-position, but you want them to keep doing it because this way it allows Trump and team to track where the money is coming from. I think they already know. But again, for those people that are just joining what is happening right now, he needs to make it look good. So he's going to allow Antifa to do this because this way you can trap them in all of this. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And in the end, I do believe Trump is going to do exactly what Abraham Lincoln did. Remember, the South was fighting against what? It was fighting against the United States government. They rose up and they were fighting to keep their slaves. They were fighting against the federal government. Isn't this the same exact thing? These people want to keep their criminals. They want to keep their illegals, and they're fighting against the federal government. They're fighting against the people. Think about it for a second. It's the same people that fought the Civil War back then. These are the same exact people. I don't mean physically. I mean, they are pretty much of the same type of person. That hasn't gone away. And they're fighting to keep their illegals. They're fighting to keep everyone in slavery. They're fighting to keep all of this. And they will go against the federal government. And Abraham Lincoln, he had to fight those people just like Trump is fighting these people. It's pretty much the same exact thing. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about Bad Bunny. Because we can see we're about 4 months away from the Super Bowl. And Bad Bunny, he was on SNL, and Em Wokeness put this out. And he let us know that we're going to have to learn Spanish in the next 4 months. And I don't think this is going to work out too well for the NFL. First of all, remember when Trump was letting us know that English is the language of America, it's the official language of America? How many people are going to tune out now? And I do believe in the end, what people are going to realize is that the NFL screwed up as usual, and their ratings are going to go down the drain. I think it's going to be a complete and utter disaster if they keep this up. But Doge Puerto Rico put this out and said, the truth about Bad Bunny. Most people don't know this. Bad Bunny's record label, Rimas Entertainment, was founded by Rafael Ricardo Jimenez Dan, a Venezuelan entrepreneur and former captain in the Venezuelan army. He even served as vice minister of legal certainty under Hugo Chavez government from 2006 to 2007 and is known to be a Maduro supporter. So when you see the political messages and the left-wing agendas being pushed through his music and image, now you know where the inspiration comes from, straight out of Chavismo ideology. Absolutely. And we could see that the deep state players, they're going to push this, but I think the people are going to push back, and I think it's going to be a complete and utter disaster. I wouldn't be surprised if this latest Super Bowl has the lowest ratings we have ever seen. But let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting, because I think when people are starting to hear this, I think people are going to say, you want to play this game? Listen, look what we did to Bud Light. Look what we did to Cracker Barrel. Look what we're going to do to the NFL. And I think there's going to be no coming back from this one. But let's see how it all plays out. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is Trump is telling the networks, listen, it's time to let certain individuals to go. I know you're afraid to let them go because it's going to be seen as racist or whatever. But again, these people have no talent. These people must be removed from the networks. And this is what he put out on Truth. I knew Al Sharpton for many years. Not that it matters, but he was a major Trump fan. He'd asked me to go to his fake rallies all the time because I brought big crowds, and he couldn't get anybody to come without me. Then he did the Tawana Brawley hoax, one of the worst low-level scams in history, and that set him back big time. Then he got to know Brian Roberts, chairman of Fake News NBC, who gave him what would become one of the lowest rated shows in television history. Roberts is afraid to take him off because it wouldn't be politically correct. This is just one of the many reasons that Federal Communications Commission should look into the license of NBC, which shows almost exclusively positive Democrat content. Likewise, ABC Fake News, about the same thing, 97% negative to Republicans. And once again, think about all these people that have really low ratings, have no viewership. How are they keeping them if they're losing money every single day? What type of business model where you could have someone working your business that's losing money every day? Can you imagine if you own a business and you're like, oh, you're losing money every day? You know what? We're keeping you. We're going to pay you more money. It doesn't even make any sense. But you can see that things are going to be changing now because Steak and Shake, they decided to go full patriot. They decided that they were going to raise the American flags and they were going to put up billboards of Charlie Kirk tributes all over the place. You know what's going to happen to Steak and Shake? their business is going to boom. And as the other fast food restaurants and other retail businesses see Steak and Shake business boom, they're going to start to think to themselves, wow, look what they did. They raised the flag. They support Trump. They support American values. And their business is taking off. Plus, they're using tallow now to cook their fries and other foods. And I do believe they probably should go to all organic if they haven't gone already. And I do believe that they're going to do very, very well in the future. Let's see how this all plays out. It's going to be very, very interesting. But when you start to look at all the illegals, you could see the deep state players. They're doing everything they possibly can to try to stop Trump. You have to remember, they need the illegals in this country. They are the constituents. They're hoping to use them to vote. They also use them to create chaos in their area. They also use them to get federal money. And all of it is coming to an end right now, and they're holding on to whatever they have right now. Remember, they don't have additional illegals coming into this country. And they know that they have to keep these illegals and the other criminals as best they possibly can, because if they don't, they're screwed. They will never, ever win another election. Jason put this out and said, notes, I'm for closing the border. I'm for deporting criminals. I'm against mass sadistic ICE Gov agents brutalizing the immigrants who came here over the last 40 years and who have worked hard to build our country. We're spending $40,000 to $80,000 per deportation, which makes no logical sense unless your goal is to project cruelty and authoritarian control. Geiger Capital responded to him and said, we told you mass deportations are ugly. That's why you don't allow approximately 15 million illegal immigrants to enter the country in 4 years while doing nothing except repeating the border is secure. Blame the people who allowed it to happen, not the people who have to clean it up. And he's absolutely right. You go back to the source of the problem. The source of the problem is the Biden administration. They paid for the people to come in here. Now we have to pay to get the people out of here, because otherwise the illegals are costing the American taxpayers trillions of dollars every year. Probably not trillions, billions of dollars every year. So think about that for a second. Think about all the money that has been going to illegals, all their health care and things like that. So once again, you have to go back to the source of the problem and ask yourself a question. Why did they do this? Why did they spend the money? Because they spent money bringing these people into this country. And with everything added up, they're estimating between $400 and $600 billion. I mean, really think about that. So again, you got to go to the source of the problem. We could have saved all that money. If they didn't bring any of these people in here, we would have saved all that. Now we had to spend that money and then spend money to remove them. So if you're going to blame anyone, you got to go right back to the source. And that's exactly what you have to do with pretty much everything. And you could see that the deep state players, they are now telling their people to attack the federal agents. So in a shocking escalation of violence against federal law enforcement, Department of Homeland Security agents were ambushed and rammed by an armed suspect in Broadview, Illinois. The attack involved 10 vehicles boxing in the agent's car, forced officers to fire defensive shots at the assailant, and U.S. citizen woman armed with a semi-automatic weapon. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin confirmed the details in a bombshell X post, and this is what she put out. The morning during routine patrolling in Broadview, in the same area of Chicago that law enforcement were assaulted yesterday, our brave law enforcement officers were rammed by vehicles and boxed in by 10 cars. Agents were unable to move their vehicles and exited the car. One of the drivers who rammed the law enforcement vehicles was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. Law enforcement was forced to deploy their weapons and fire defensive shots at an armed U.S. citizen who drove herself to the hospital to get care for the wounds. The armed woman was named in a CBP intelligence bulletin last week for doxing agents and posting online, hey, to all my gangs, let's F those mother effers. Don't let them take anyone. Thankfully, no law enforcement officers were seriously injured in this attack. And you could see that Pritzker's Chicago Police Department is leaving the shooting scene and refuses to assist in securing the area. So basically, the police in Chicago were ordered to basically step down. Dapper Detective put this out and says, here is the radio transmission that confirms Chicago police were ordered not to respond to calls for help from ICE after a domestic terror attack on their agents surrounded by insurgents yesterday. Take a listen to the recording.
All right, 999, just to confirm, 39th Place in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Place in Kedzie.
Again, those are the orders we're being given.
Okay, 10-4. And again, for all the units that we called to go over that way, 39th Place in Kedzie, if you could just hold off 911, 913. 923, 924, 933, 934. Just disregard that. 39th Place in Kedzie.
So that's absolutely unbelievable. So the police were ordered to stand down, but police are supposed to help other police officers. And what's very interesting is that the National Fraternal Order of Police, they decided to respond to all this. Election Wizard put this out and said, National Fraternal Order of Police condemns Chicago police commanders for prohibiting rank-and-file officers from aiding ICE agents surrounded by protesters. When an officer calls for assistance, you answer, no matter what. Absolutely. This is absolutely horrific, but it tells you everything you need to know. You can see the insurrection that is now forming in this country, not just in Chicago, but in LA, in Portland, Oregon, and you're going to see it in many other areas. Most likely New York is going to be next. But when you really start to look at this, the Dems right now, they're actually getting involved in the insurrection. So they're funding these people, and now they're involved in all of this. Clandestine put this out and said, this is textbook legal definition of an insurrection. Chicago mayor says he signed an executive order to rein in the Trump administration and set up ICE-free zones. I remember when they set up free speech zones, gun-free zones. Now it's ICE-free zones. They're obstructing federal law enforcement. This is 1860s type of stuff. Absolutely. And when you look at Portland, for example, you can see that they're being funded. They have drinks, they have tents, they have pre-made signs that are paid for. They have it all. Wall Street Apes put this out and said, just look at this. Look at these stations set up for Portland ICE protesters. I paused and slowly skimmed the video. There are pre-made signs, coolers, food, cases of water, traffic cones for protesting grills, cases of paperwork, logo shirts, likely NGOs, and more. This is all paid for. So the question is, where did all of this money come from? Who is funding the terrorist organization? Well, I do believe that is being looked into right now. And yes, Carolyn Levitt already confirms this. And they're going to find out who is funding all of this, because all you need is Doge. All you need is Scott Pacent. I just found something wild about stem cells. If you don't know, stem cells are like tiny repair crews in your body, and they go fix things that need to be fixed. And guess who's been ahead of the curve on this? Joe Rogan. He's been talking about this for years. Take a listen.
I had a full-length rotator cuff tear, and the UFC gave me a doctor in Los Angeles, and he looks at my MRI and goes, you're going to need surgery. I go, 100%? He goes, I don't know how you're using it now. It's a matter of time. You're going to need surgery, so it might be better to do it now. So I got it shot up with stem cells. And this was the early days of stem cells in America, where you could get away with more. You got to go to Mexico now again.
But here's the crazy part. Most stem cell therapies are illegal in the U.S., not because they're unsafe, not because they don't work, but because they work too well and they threaten Big Pharma. If you could heal your knees, fix your back, or recover from surgery without pills, insurance, or endless doctor visits, what happens to their profits? The FDA has blocked these treatments. As a result, people are forced to go overseas just to get access to their own biology, and it's expensive, unregulated, and out of reach for most of us. Just one placenta stem cell injection can run you back $50,000. Honestly, I don't have the kind of cash on me right now, but here's what people don't know. Here's a natural way to support your own stem cell activity, and it comes from high flavanol cocoa. Studies have been done to show that flavanols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow like bees coming out of a beehive in your bloodstream. Harvard scientist Dr. William Lee actually backs this up. Check it out.
So, studies have been done to show that the flavanols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow like bees in a beehive in your bloodstream, and they go out and they find wherever it needs to be repaired. If it's in your heart, they'll fix it.
That's right, dark chocolate. But here's the thing. Flavonols are the good stuff found in cocoa beans, but they're usually destroyed during the chocolate making process. That's where Black Forest supplements come in. They've created the first ever high flavanol cocoa powder packed with everything your body actually needs. And it's only 20 calories. I mix it with my coffee or my protein shake. It tastes absolutely amazing. This isn't regular cocoa, it's stem cell fuel. No sugar, 20 calories, mix it in coffee or shakes. If you feel old, slow, or just off, lazy stem cells might be why. But this, it flips the switch. Over 100% increase in stem cell circulation. And now you can buy one and get one free for 48 hours only. Just go to blackfloorsupplements.com/X22 or click the link in the description to basically look through everything, and you're going to find out who is behind this. Now, of course, it's not going to be like, hey, look, Soros just, wired some money over here. Yes, they're going to use a lot of shell companies. They're going to use a lot of NGOs, but they're going to track the money down. Homeland Security put this out and said, what has been most shocking to me is to see these local governors and mayors not stand up for law and order. We will go into Chicago, we will go into Portland, and we'll make sure we have the backs of our law enforcement. That's what the Department of War is providing for us. Lisa May responded to this and said, drop 14. What happens if Soros-funded operations get violent and engage in domestic terrorism? What happens if mayors, police commissioners, chiefs do not enforce the law? What authority does POTUS have specifically over the Marines? Why is this important? And this is all talking about the Insurrection Act. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. I do believe what Trump now is doing, he's making sure that he has the rulings that he needs. I think he wants the final one from the Supreme Court, but he has the power on his side. He has the leverage on his side, and he has the people on his side. So can he bring in the National Guard to protect the federal buildings? Even if a judge says you cannot, she is not the commander-in-chief, and he can do this. It doesn't stop him from doing it. She'll try, or he will try to stop Trump. Remember, these judges, they are tyrannical. They're here to delay as best they possibly can because they know in the end, they don't have any type of legal standing. They'll push and push and push until it goes to the Supreme Court and Trump wins, because that's exactly what's going to happen. We'll be talking a lot more about the insurrection a little bit later. But first, look what the Supreme Court just ruled. The Supreme Court affirms that DHS can strip temporary protected status from Venezuelan migrants. So, affirming a decision that was made in May 2025, a subsequently blocked by an ideological lower court ruling, our U.S. Supreme Court has again affirmed Secretary Kristi Noem can remove the temporary protective status from Venezuelan migrants and deport them back to their home country, which, once again, this is going to allow for all other illegals, because if you do it for one group, you could do it for all groups. And you have to remember what Trump and his team are doing right now. They're cleaning everything up because they know what's coming. They know that the deep state players, they're going to be pushing this insurrection. And the FBI, working with other law enforcement, they are cleaning up the streets. Plus, they also know that eventually they're going to release certain information that has to do with the child trafficking networks, the pedophilia networks, and they want to make sure that these children are safe and, they don't kill them off and escape. So I think that's what they're doing right now. They're removing as much as they possibly can on the streets to make sure that they do not hurt people, children, or try to do anything. Now, is it going to be perfect? Of course not. But they can clean it up pretty darn good. You have to remember, for a very long time, the FBI, they've been doing nothing. They've been letting criminals just run rampant in all the different cities. And now we have FBI Director Kash Patel. And he put this out to let everyone know what they have done so far since January 20th, 2025. The FBI is built for the fight, and we're taking ground every day. America is safer because we are winning. Violent crime, 23,000 arrests of violent criminals. 91% increase from the same time last year. FBI has 3,600 plus VC cases, 1,200 plus indictments, 6,000 plus weapons seized, 1,600 plus gangs and criminal enterprises disrupted, 170 plus gangs and criminal enterprises dismantled. Violent crimes against children. 1,500 plus child predators arrested. 300 plus human traffickers arrested. 4,000 plus children rescued. Drug seizures. 1,600 plus kilograms of fentanyl. 125 million lethal doses. 88,000 kilograms of cocaine. 7,300 plus kilograms of meth. So what is Cash and team doing? They're cleaning it all up. Because Trump and the Patriots, they know what's coming. They know that the deep state players, they were going to use all these criminals. They were going to use all these weapons. They were going to use all of this. But now, since Trump and team are cleaning this all up, this is going to make it very, very difficult for the deep state players. And this is why they're protecting their illegals as best they possibly can in each one of these sanctuary cities. And they're going to fight back with everything they have. And basically, Trump is leading them down this path to the insurrection that he wants them to push, because the entire country is going to see the deep state insurrection. And when they're all out on the streets, when they're rioting, yes, people are going to be afraid. It's going to look scary. People are going to say, what the hell's going on here? But this is going to make it a lot easier for the National Guard, the Marines, to clean these people up. So from this point on, is it going to look a lot worse? Yes, I do believe so. But you have to remember, Trump and team, they're leading them down this path. We've been told this for quite a while. And when you see Antifa fighting against the National Guard, fighting against ICE, when you see Antifa and the illegals burning buildings down, this is to get them out on the streets. This is to get them to a place where the people can see it. Trump wants them to form the insurrection. They hid behind the people last time. This time, they're the ones who are going to be out there. They're the ones who are going to be pushing the insurrection. And think about all those people behind the scenes, all those people that are giving them support, all those people that are funding them. They're also going to be caught up in all of this. And what's very interesting, since we've been talking about the children that are being saved, the child predators that are being arrested, the Supreme Court has now rejected Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal for sex trafficking minors. So they refused to hear Maxwell's appeal to overturn her 2022 conviction for sex trafficking minors with Jeffrey Epstein. So basically right now, nothing is happening. I do believe timing is everything. And as we move forward, I think what we're going to see is we're going to see more and more information come out about the pedophilia networks, about the child trafficking. And I do believe in the end, all of this is going to be used against the deep state players. But let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. And you have to remember, Trump, he definitely wants to take control of the House and Senate. This is our one chance to do this because he needs the patriots in these positions. Why? Because he needs them to pass certain laws and actually undo certain things. And I do believe this is why he put this out on Truth, saying, I hope Univision, a great and very popular Hispanic network, get back on to the very amazing Google YouTube. It has been taken out of their package, which is very bad for Republicans in the upcoming midterms. They were so good to me with their highest rated ever political special, and I set a Republican record in Hispanic voting. Google, for the purpose of fairness, please let Univision back. So Trump is already paving the way, saying, listen, the midterms are coming up. You need to start bringing back Univision, because this is how Trump reaches the Hispanic community. And I do believe most likely they will bring back Univision. Now, are they going to bring back every single person? I don't think so. Well, I mean, it'd be great if they did, but let's see how that plays out. But you can see the deep state players. I think they've just actually shown everyone their true intentions in regards of gun control. It wasn't about stopping the assault rifle, which there is no assault rifle. This was about removing the weapons from the people, plain and simple. And basically, every time they enact a law, they're infringing on the Second Amendment. You can't create a law that's repugnant to the Constitution. Actually, there's a Supreme Court ruling that actually says that. And this is what they do every single time. I mean, you think people would be on the street saying, what the hell's going on here? This is my free speech card. I only can speak freely on this street and on that street, but I can't speak freely in a government building? That doesn't make any sense. You think people would go along with that? Or do you think people would be pretty darn angry? You think people would be angry if they had to actually pay to speak freely? You see, that's the First Amendment. Why don't they do that? Because people would say, absolutely not. But why can they do it to the Second Amendment? Actually, the Second Amendment says, shall not infringe. The founding fathers specifically told you, don't create any laws that are repugnant to this. These are our rights. And you could see out in LA, they were making sure that people didn't have weapons. And these weren't assault rifles, as they would say, which there's no such thing. These aren't AR-15s. These are just people who wanted pistols to defend themselves. Gun Owners of America put this out and said, the Second Amendment is not a second-class right, said Harmeet Dillon of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. This lawsuit seeks to stop a Los Angeles County's egregious pattern and practice of delaying law-abiding citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. So basically, those people that went in to get a concealed carry permit, which I don't believe you need anyhow, because you have the right to bear arms. It doesn't say you have the right to get a concealed carry permit and pay money. It says you have the right to carry a weapon. Well, out in LA, and we mentioned this before, they weren't approving them. They were only by law allowed to have something like 120 days. And they were going way over this. They weren't even following their own laws that they implemented because they didn't want the people to have the weapons. They didn't want the people to defend themselves. They wanted the criminals to run free in their city, to run free in their state. And we'll explain why in just a little bit later. But you could see the deep state players, they're moving forward with their control. And that's what this is all about from the very, very beginning. They want control over the people. They want them to have no weapons. They want to track them. And they did this with the Federal Reserve, actually, with all the central banks across the globe. They were able to track every single person because that's what, in this country, the IRS was for. It was to track what you were doing. The banks tracked you in everything that you did. And you have to remember, our founding fathers never wanted us to be tracked. They didn't want the government to know anything about our business, ever, even with money. But again, if you have a private corporation called the Federal Reserve and you're borrowing their private currency, remember, that's their product. You're borrowing it. They're loaning it to you. They want to track where their private currency is and who owes us money on the money that we're loaning you. That's how it works. And this is why they want the digital ID laws. Jason Bassler put this out and said 17 countries have rolled out or passed digital ID laws in the last 3 months. EU, UK, Laos, China, Taiwan, Mexico, Zambia, Canada, Thailand, Vietnam, Australia, Costa Rica, Switzerland, and others. So again, this reminds me of the vaccine passport. They want control in the end. And you could see what's going to happen. It's not going to work out too well for them. Because again, if you don't get the United States, all of that is for nothing. Just like the vaccine passport. No one is going to go along with it. Because when the people of those countries see the United States is not going along with it, well, they're not going to go along with it. And it looks like France is having a problem because the people, they're just not going along with Macron. Actually, most of the people in most of the countries are not going along with their installed politicians. Right now, the fifth prime minister has decided to resign. So now we're moving to number 6. Macron is in trouble. The people are protesting. Peter Sweden put this out and said, right-wing Andrei Babis won the election in Czech Republic. Right-wing Freedom Party won the election in Austria. Geert Wilders is leading the polls in the Netherlands. The right-wing AfD party number 1 in the latest Forza poll in Germany. Marine Le Pen's national rally won most numbers of votes in France. The anti-woke Vox party is rising the polls in Spain and is third largest. The right-wing Swedish Democrats are increasing in the polls and is the second largest party. A political earthquake is happening in Europe. Kirill Dmitriev says EU awakening, people versus bureaucrats. And look what's happening right now. The people, they're fighting back. The people are saying enough is enough. We need to take back control of our country. That is what you're witnessing right now. And what's very interesting is that out in Japan, Sanae Takichi won the Liberal Democrat Party leadership election on October 4, 2025, positioning her as Japan's likely first female prime minister. And she is a conservative ally of the late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and supports revising the pacifist constitution, boosting defense spending, and imposing stricter immigration policies. Her victory was unexpected, and now she'll face parliamentary confirmation, potentially becoming Japan's first female prime minister. So let's see how this all plays out. But we could see the world now is changing very, very rapidly, and the people of this world, they are pushing back very, very hard. Now, the other thing that we could see is that Trump, he wants peace throughout the world. And sometimes you have to bring people to a scary situation to get the peace. Because, again, sometimes when the installed politicians don't want peace and all they want is war, they're just going to continually push war. So you're going to have to depend on the people to push the peace. And the only way to do that sometimes is to show the people that we don't want to enter nuclear war. You see, the deep state players, they use fear and panic to bring us to war. Trump is going to do the opposite. And he's going to counter what the deep state is trying to do, which we'll be getting to in just a sec. But what's very interesting is that Greta Thunberg, she took a flotilla towards Gaza, and the IDF intercepted her 42 ships. And you know what they found on there? Because they were supposed to be carrying humanitarian aid. They were supposed to be carrying lawyers. They were, carrying doctors. And when they looked, there was nothing on the flotilla. There was no aid whatsoever. So basically, she entered the waters and she was deported out of this area. Now, she's saying that she was abducted. If you're abducted, you're not sent via plane to another country where you can then go to wherever you want. That's being deported. You see, if she sailed a flotilla into the United States, do you think she'd be deported out of this country? Of course she would. Is that abducted? No, it's deported. It's that simple. So she's spending some time in Greece now. What is she? By the way, what happened to the climate warnings that she used to put out? Hasn't the 10 years passed? Isn't the Earth supposed to be destroyed now? Where's the rising seas? Where's the hot temperatures? Oh, that's right. She changed costume now. Now it's free Palestine. So basically, she's full of it. And her message throughout these last 10 years, what happened? Remember, she was warning, crying, screaming. It's all fake. All they do is change costumes. Same thing with Antifa. 1 minute, they're all BLM. Next minute, they're all Free Palestine. They just change costumes. Same exact people being directed by who? The deep state players. But Trump, he wants peace in the Middle East. That is his main goal. And he put a couple of posts out on Truth. He said, I appreciate that Israel has temporarily stopped the bombing in order to give the hostages release and peace deal a chance to be completed. Hamas must move quickly, or else all bets will be off. I will not tolerate delay, which many think will happen, or any outcome where Gaza poses a threat again. Let's get this done fast. Everyone will be treated fairly. Then he said, after negotiations, Israel's agreed to the initial withdrawal line, which we have shown to and shared with Hamas. When Hamas confirms the ceasefire will be immediately effective, the hostages and prisoner exchange will begin and will create the conditions for the next phase of withdrawal, which will bring us close to the end of this 3,000-year catastrophe. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Stay tuned. So basically, there's going to be a meeting out in Egypt. Israel, Hamas, they're preparing for talks in Egypt. And we'll have to see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Trump, he put out another truth and said, there have been very positive discussions with Hamas and countries from all over the world, Arab, Muslim, and everyone else, this weekend to release the hostages, end the war in Gaza, but more importantly, finally have long sought peace in the Middle East. These talks have been very successful and proceeding rapidly. The technical teams will again meet Monday in Egypt to work through and clarify the final details. I'm told that the first phase should be completed this week, and I am asking everyone to move fast. I will continue to monitor this centuries-old conflict. Time is of the essence, or massive bloodshed will follow, something that nobody wants to see. And I do believe in the end, hopefully, Trump will get the peace in that region. And if that occurs, we will have more countries sign on to the Abraham Accords, and we will finally have peace in that region. Let's see how that plays out. And I do believe that we're moving in the right direction. And that will free up Trump to deal with what is happening out in Ukraine and Russia. Because we could see Ukraine right now, and Visegrad24 put this out, has launched an unusually large attack of suicide drones against Russia tonight. Some of the drones have just arrived in the Moscow region. And OSINT Defender put this out and said, for the second time in 2 weeks, the armed forces of Ukraine tonight have carried out a series of precision missile strikes against the Luk thermal power station and other energy infrastructure throughout the western Russian city of Belgorod, resulting in a near total service blackout across the entire area. And Ukraine, they're firing missiles and they're hitting different plants and they're shutting down power. So basically what they're doing right now is they're poking the bear. They're trying to push World War III, and I do believe what they're doing right now is they're setting up for a false flag so they can blame Russia. See, that's what they really need. Remember, during the beginning stages of the Ukraine war, Zelensky on his own tried to blame Russia. Like when we had a missile go into Poland, right off the bat, it was Russia who did it. Then we found out it was Ukraine. You see, this time around, he has the assistance, more so than before, of NATO, the EU, and other deep state players, because they're at the point where they're saying, listen, this is the only alternative we have. We must follow through on the 16-year plan. The 16-year plan, the last part of it was World War III. And I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they know that we're heading down this path. And I do believe he's going to be using everything that they're about to do against them. Because when you have the people and you have a choice to make and you want the people to decide, do you want nuclear war or World War III, or do you want peace? The people are going to choose peace every single time. The deep state players, they're going to pick war. The installed politicians, they're going to pick war. So basically, I think what's going to happen is it's going to look scary. People around this country, people around the world, it's really going to seem like we're going to World War III. It's going to feel like there's no hope. The fake news is going to play this up. It's going to look pretty darn bad. I wouldn't be surprised, and we said this before, remember, timing, just remove that right now, where, when is it exactly going to happen? I mean, we thought it was going to happen during the election, but it looks like they decided to wait for this moment. And I do believe that we might see some type of dirty nuke. We might maybe see a missile attack. We might see something that looks very, very scary, that it will look like we're going to World War III. And yes, the fake news, it will be splashed all over the fake news, just like COVID was with the counters and all that crap. And your neighbors, your family, they're really going to truly believe that we're heading towards World War III. And I do believe in the end, as this builds and builds and builds, Trump is eventually going to say, listen, we can't go to nuclear war. This can't happen. We must have peace. And I think he's going to get the people behind him where he begins the narrative of peace. And he's going to keep repeating it over and over and over. And again, the deep state players, they're going to try to stop that. They don't want peace. But in the end, he knows that if he has the people, which he does, he'll be able to override the deep state players. And we will usher in peace. Now, once again, I do believe it's going to look pretty darn scary. I think it's going to look like there's going to be no hope. And I think people are really going to believe that we're heading into World War III. But again, you have to remember who's actually in control. Remember, before Trump came onto the scene, Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. And we were told that that was going to be a controlled World War III and the U.S. was going to lose. So if that was going to be controlled back then, who do you think is controlling this? Trump and the Patriots. And every step of the way, we're going to see how they're in control. Because remember, the deep state players, they're becoming weaker and weaker every single day. Now, the other thing that's really interesting is, remember the entire network of 300 SIM servers? We come to find out that China set this up. Well, you think this is the only thing that they set up in this country? I don't believe so. Who's working with them? I do believe there's probably some generals or admirals working with them. Yes, other foreign governments are working with them. Yes, the deep state players are working with them. And Ezra Cohen said something very, very interesting on X. As bad as this seems, it is the tip of the iceberg in terms of the action the PRC has already taken against our country in preparation for a war they believe is inevitable. We must wake up and defend our country accordingly. So they've been planning on a war, but I do believe Trump, since he has the people here and the people around the world, because you could see the people now, they're rising up. They're not choosing their installed politicians anymore. They're choosing those people that want peace, choosing those people that are going to benefit them and what they need. So I think in the end, Trump will have the people around the world when he talks about peace, just like he's talking about peace in the Middle East. Nobody wants war. The people want peace. The only people that want war are the deep state players, are those people that are going to be hunted down later for the treasonous crimes that they have committed. Now, the other thing that we could see is that every step of the way, and I do believe RFK and Trump, they had to start out really slow to convince people that vaccines are not the way to go. Or if you still want to get a vaccine, you need to stagger them. Because you have to remember, if you're just going to come out and tell people don't get vaccines anymore, you would have an uprising in this country because a lot of people believe in vaccines. So if you're just telling people, listen, you can still take your vaccines, it's no problem, just stagger them. People will go, okay, that's a good idea, let's stagger them. And also by making them not mandatory, this allows people to make the decision not to take it. Eric Doherty put this out and said, in a massive development, Secretary RFK Jr., CDC just recommended toddlers not get the chickenpox vaccine in combination with the MMR vaccine all at once, and rescinds the recommendation that all adults receive COVID boosters. And why is he doing this? Because they're weaning us off the vaccines slowly but surely. And soon you're going to start to see them say, listen, you don't need this vaccine, you don't need that MMR, you don't need this one. And soon we're only going to have a couple that we actually really need. And the rest you won't. And all of a sudden you're going to see the autism rate get better and better and better as time goes on. And actually you're going to start to see, a lot of illnesses like eczema and many other illnesses, they're all allergies. I think you're going to start to see all those start to disappear. And everyone's going to go, that's interesting. Everything's starting to disappear, generation after generation. And they're all going to go back to the source of, this is when it started. Now we get it. This is something the pharmaceutical companies never wanted anyone to see. And when you look at the Amish, you have to ask a very simple question. They don't take the vaccines. Why don't they have the problems that the people that are taking multiple vaccines have? And it's almost like those people that didn't take the vaccine for COVID and those people that did. You have two groups. You could see the difference. It's that simple. Just like it's very simple to see what Mamdani is doing. He is promising everything plus the kitchen sink. He says free rent, free buses, free childcare, about $10 billion per year in free stuff he's promising. Well, we know for a fact nothing is free. Somebody's got to pay for it. Where is he getting the funding? Think about it. Is he going to raise taxes on all the people? Well, then it's not free. Is he going to borrow from the federal government? Well, it's not free. The rest of the country then is paying for it. And I don't think Trump is going to give him the money. So where is he getting all this money? Is he going to give his own money and pay for everybody? Basically, what people are going to start to realize is nothing is for free. And there's always strings attached. And this plan is not going to work whatsoever. But sometimes you got to show the people. And sometimes people must go through it. Just like the Democratic candidate for Attorney General of Virginia, Jones, it's almost like what he's going through right now. Because, again, when these people get angry, when people get pissed off, they really tell you how they truly feel. And I think Trump and the Patriots, they're counting on all these people to crack. Sean McGuire put this out and said, for those that missed it, the Democratic candidate for Attorney General of Virginia accidentally messaged a Republican colleague. They went on to say they wish their Republican opponent's children be killed. They're young boys, and the local DNC chapter is downplaying it. Brent Scher says, read all the texts. He not only says he wants to kill them and piss on their graves, he then explains his reasoning, saying the only way to move people on policy is with violence, and says that his political opponents breed little fascists. So this is very, very interesting. Trump responded to all this and said, it has just come out that the radical left lunatic Jay Jones, who is running against Jason Merares, the great attorney general in Virginia, made a sick and demented joke, if they were jokes at all, which were not funny, and that he wrote down and sent around to people concerning the murdering of a Republican legislator, his wife, and their children. Abigail Spanberger, who is running for governor, is weak and ineffective and refuses to acknowledge that this lunatic has done. Even Democrats are saying it is resignation from campaign territory. Democrat Jay Jones should drop out of the race immediately, and the people of Virginia must continue to have a great attorney general in Jason Merares, who, by the way, has my complete and total endorsement. Jason will never let you down. So basically, you're seeing the true nature of these people, and it's getting worse and worse for them every step of the way. And think about what they did to Trump in New York. Businesses, they don't want to be in New York, and a lot of businesses don't want to come back, and a lot of businesses are leaving. And this is all due to Letitia James. Trump, he put this out on Truth, and said, corrupt Letitia James is costing New York State hundreds of billions of dollars in lost business. No company or individual wants to be there, knowing that she's the attorney general. She is a complete and total disaster who tried running against Kathy Hochul for governor and only got 1% of the vote polls and quit. She then went back to her witch hunt against Trump and others until this scum is removed from the Attorney General's office. No company will move to New York, and few companies will be using the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ for going public. The new Texas Exchange will be taking all of this business away, and we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. So once again, let's see, California, Illinois, New York, and many other states, from their actions and everything that they're doing, they're going to be losing people. They're going to be losing businesses. And in the end, you're going to see the difference. You're going to see the difference between a red state, a red city, and a blue city and a blue state. And the difference is going to be very, very noticeable. Very, very interesting. And you can see that the deep state players, they know they're screwed. They know the people aren't behind them. They know that they need the illegals to vote for them. They know that the cheating mechanisms that they put into place, they're being dismantled every step of the way. And they know that at this point, they're not going to be able to win the midterms. And all they have left right now is to keep the illegals where they are, because no new illegals are coming in. And you could see that they are definitely panicking, and they're preparing for the insurrection. Out in Oakland, California, hundreds of TDS-riddled radical activists attended a training session designed to teach concrete tactics that protesters could employ to better resist Trump and his nonsense administration, they said. So basically, they're now training out in the Oakland area. You think that's the only place they're training? Absolutely not. And the other thing that's very interesting, and Andy No put this out, Mark Bray, a financier of International Antifa and the author of the Antifa Handbook, has announced he is fleeing to Europe, believed to be Spain. The announcement follows the U.S. government declaring Antifa domestic terrorists and the intelligence community looking to establish the international links to declare International Antifa as a foreign terrorist organization. Without evidence, Bray says the reason is because of death threats, plus doxing. Bray is one of the major financiers of the International Antifa Defense Fund, which also announced that it was shutting down to relocate its operations abroad in an attempt to escape U.S. prosecution. Rutgers U employs the violent extremist advocate as an assistant teaching professor. He previously taught at Dartmouth and earned a rare rebuke for his advocacy of Antifa political violence. Antifa believe in maiming, killing targets branded as fascists to further their terrorist cause. So basically, he's fleeing now. He's panicking right now. Think about it. Trump just went ahead and designated Antifa as a terrorist organization. We have other countries now designating Antifa as terrorist organizations. And as soon as Trump and team designate Antifa as a foreign terrorist organization, I do believe as they basically track down the money, that's when that's going to come. This is going to be a major, major problem. And you could see the deep state players, they're trying to stop Trump from bringing in the National Guard into all the different areas. And Trump appointed Judge Karen Immergut. She blocked Trump for the second time from sending troops to lawless Portland. And basically, she's letting Trump know that under 10 U.S.C. Section 12406 in the 10th Amendment, this is why he can't do this, because it's violating both the statute and the 10th Amendment. But once again, it really isn't, because they're guarding federal buildings and there is an uprising. Stephen Miller put this out and said, asylum seekers is the phrase of choice for those boosting mass illegal immigration. No alien who crosses our land border is even plausibly eligible for political asylum since they cross through multiple safe countries first. It's a fraud all the way down. Absolutely. Mike Davis says, Attorney General Pam Bondi appeals another lawless order. The district court's order improperly impinges on the commander-in-chief's supervision of military operations, countermands a military directive to officers in the field, and endangers the federal personnel and property. Joe Lane says, Trump will win this case at the Supreme Court again. Do not get upset about this, my friends. The Supreme Court precedent is an important safeguard for our country's future. When Trump wins this court fight, it will help prevent future governors and mayors from allowing and promoting violent crime in the streets. If they do not keep their oath, the future presidents will have the authority to send in the National Guard to stop the crime, and there won't be a thing that the governor nor the mayor can do about it. And he needs this ruling. Does he? I mean, not absolutely, but this way he could use it against them every single step of the way. And this way it just stops the lawsuits. Remember, the lawsuits are to delay what he's trying to do. And again, can he just declare an insurrection? Yeah, this bypasses pretty much everything. Can the judges then say, we are stopping you from implementing the Insurrection Act? Of course they can, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Stephen Miller put this out and said, ICE facilities are federal property conducting a federal mission of immigration enforcement that protects the lives and livelihood of 300 million American citizens. The president has undisputed authority under both statute and the Constitution to deploy troops stationed in any state to defend a federal facility from domestic terrorism or violent assault, just as he has the authority to dispatch any federal protective asset from and to any state. The Portland police have refused to render aid and assistance to ICE officers. The intention and purpose of the attacks on ICE is to prevent ICE from performing its duties and to force as many ICE officers as possible out of the field and into a defensive posture. It is a violent armed resistance designed to incapacitate the essential operation of the duly elected federal government by force. A district court judge has no conceivable authority whatsoever to restrict the president and commander-in-chief from dispatching members of the U.S. military to defend federal lives and property. Today's judicial ruling is one of the most egregious and thunderous violations of the constitutional order we have ever seen, and is yet the latest example of unceasing efforts to nullify the 2024 election by fiat. Remember, all of this is about preventing the removal of illegal alien trespassers from the United States at any cost. And that's exactly what this is all about. Plus, every time a judge does this, it lets us know who the tyrannical judges are. And like we said from the very, very beginning, is why do the deep state players need to keep the illegals, the criminals, the crime in their area? Cynical Publius explains, the things we see happening in America's blue cities today make perfect sense when you understand the Democrat calculus. Crime causes poverty. Poverty causes government reliance. Government reliance causes Democrat votes. Democrat votes cause power for the Marxists. Democrats who rule in these urban killing zones, Democrats cannot allow problems of crime to be solved because they will lose their power. It's just that simple. Absolutely. So what is Trump and team doing? Well, they're going to be sending more troops to more cities. OSINT Defender put this out and said, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has ordered the call-up and federalization of 400 airmen and soldiers with the Texas National Guard in order to perform federal protection missions where needed, including in the cities of Portland and Chicago. The White House is now deploying federalized troops of another state's National Guard into the cities and states that the president has publicly declared are enemies of the United States. We are approaching an extremely dangerous point in this country, as well as likely one of the largest challenges to states' rights since the civil rights movement, possibly even the Civil War. And Trump, he's just letting everyone know what's about to happen. You know what word he's using? Insurrection. Claire Desson put this out. Take a listen to Trump.
Burning to the ground. You have agitators, insurrectionists. All you have to do is look at the television, turn on your television, read your newspapers. It's burning to the ground. The governor, the mayor, the politicians are petrified for their lives.
Mr. President,
and you have a judge like that, that judge ought to be ashamed of himself.
So Trump, you let everyone know that they're insurrectionists and they're burning Portland to the ground. He's building the narrative for the Insurrection Act. And that reminds me of Post 22, October 31st, 2017. Who controls the National Guard? Why was the National Guard recently activated in select cities within the U.S.? Can the National Guard work in coordination with Marines? Do conditions need to be satisfied to authorize? What former president used the military to save the republic, and what occurred exactly? Biggest drop to ever be provided. Study and prepare. The masses tend to panic in such situations. No war, no civil unrest, clean and swift. So who is that president? Abraham Lincoln. And he played a pivotal role in invoking and expanding the legal framework surrounding the Insurrection Act of 1807, a federal law that empowers the president to deploy U.S. military forces domestically to suppress insurrections, rebellions, or obstructions to the federal law. This authority was crucial for Lincoln to respond to the succession of southern states and the outbreak of armed conflict, which he viewed as an insurrection against the Union. So let's see, when we have Antifa, illegals, criminals, as they take up arms and they're going against the federal government, the Union, is this not an insurrection? We're actually witnessing the same exact thing. Eric Doherty put this out and said, Carolyn Leavitt reveals that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is now involved in uncovering the funders behind Antifa and left-wing violence. The FBI is working on it alongside the White House's Homeland Security Task Force. We have intelligence community looking into this as well. And even the Secretary of Treasury is involved with these matters since they are financial in nature. The federal government has never really been mobilized or tasked with doing that. So we're kind of kickstarting this into gear. We will continue to get to the bottom of who's funding these organizations in this organized anarchy against our country and our government. It's a question the American people have been begging the answer for many years, and we're committed to uncovering it. Do you think Trump and the Patriots, do you think they already know? Absolutely. Remember, Antifa mapping has been started a long time ago. So I do believe they already know, but now they just want this all on record, and they want this produced for the American people. And the people, they're going to find out very, very quickly who's behind all of this. And these people are treasonous to this country. Remember, they tried to make everyone believe that this was just an organic grassroots uprising. There's no organization. No one's telling them what to do. They're not being funded. They're just doing this on their own because they're just loving this country as they burn the American flag. And remember, Trump already put out an executive order about burning the American flag. So he's putting all the pieces together and he's prepared and ready to go after all these people. Just like FBI Director Kash Patel's prepared and ready to go after Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Hillary, Obama, and the rest. Remember, timing is everything. Do you think the time is right now? Maybe in the beginning, having this case where he lied to Congress. But I think as we move forward, Trump needs to make sure that he's in power. I mean, think about it. If all these people are rounded up, do you think these Antifa people and others would try to do something? Yeah, I think what Trump wants, he wants to make sure that all of this is shut down. He has all the leverage. So when we actually go to the last stage of arresting and actually having accountability and justice, the deep state players, they don't have the ability to strike back. But what's very interesting is we could see that MSNBC and Barb McQuaid, they're out there saying that DOJ policy prohibits perp walks in which arrests are paraded before the cameras. Well, FBI Director Kash Patel responded to this and said, MSNBC still an ass clown factory of disinformation. Same circus animals and that slobbered all over perp walks of Stone, Navarro, and Bannon. MSNBC has no facts and no audience. In this FBI, follow the chain of command or get relief. So basically what Cash is saying that, with Roger Stone, Peter Navarro, and Steve Bannon, you perp walked every single one of these people. And you're trying to lecture the director of the FBI and what to do. Well, basically, if the FBI says this is what you need to do to the FBI officers, they must follow the chain of command. It's that simple. Let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Let's see if they make an arrest and actually have the cameras on standby. But again, with everything that we're seeing and all the judges that have been trying to stop Trump, I think President Bukele says it the best. If you don't impeach the corrupt judges, you cannot fix the country. They will form a cartel, a judicial dictatorship, and block all reforms protecting the systematic corruption that put them in their seats. When we impeached our country's corrupt judges, we faced strong backlash from the so-called international community, including the Biden administration. We did it anyway because it was the only way to save our country. The U.S., however, doesn't have to answer to anyone. And why do you think Trump needs the House and the Senate? And when I say he needs the House and the Senate, I don't mean majority. I mean he needs the patriots in position. Because if you're going to have accountability, if you're going to have justice, you better have the right judges in place. And you better have the ability to impeach the tyrannical judges. As of right now, we can see who the judges are. And if any of them act up beyond what we're seeing right now, they will also be removed. I do believe what Trump and the Patriots are doing right now is they're making sure that we have the leverage after the midterms to remove every single one of these judges. And Trump will then appoint judges that aren't blackmailed, that will follow the rule of law. That's the only way we can have justice. And Trump, because of the shutdown right now, he's letting everyone know that firings are underway in the executive branch as a result of the Democratic shutdown. Eric Doherty put this out and said, Trump says it's taking place right now, and it's all because of the Democrats. The Democrats are causing the loss of a lot of jobs. It's their shutdown, not ours. So think about this. Trump is laying off the swamp. He's getting rid of them. Now, again, to fire them permanently, this shutdown has to go about 61 days or so. Let's see if it occurs. But Peter Sayong put this out and said, it's day 6 of the government shutdown. Shockingly, we still have roads. The shutdown's not hurting Republicans at all because Trump's keeping the stuff voters like and ditching Democrat pet projects. Absolutely. But Chuck Grassley said something very, very interesting about the shutdown. Second day is day 5 of Schumer shutdown. Does that mean the shutdown might be only 10 days? We'll have to see how this plays out. But again, the shutdown, I think, needs to go past 61 days so Trump can fire these people permanently. It doesn't mean he won't be able to fire these people later on. But you have to remember, the first shutdown that Trump went through, it was 35 days. So let's see how this all plays out. Plus, it shows the American people. Look, the government shut down. Has it really affected your lives that much? And I think the people are going to say, no, it really hasn't. Actually, last time for 35 days, I don't think people noticed it. Which means we really don't need the federal government. You have to remember, the deep state players, they tried to convince us that we need the government. If the government shuts down, the whole world comes to a screeching halt. It really doesn't. And I think people are starting to recognize this. But the other thing that's very interesting is Trump, he was with the Navy. It's the 250th birthday of the Navy. And Dan Scavino put something out, which is very, very interesting. And Kim Sachs put this out, and it says, the instant a U.S. carrier, cruiser, or destroyer breaks across the horizon, every tyrant and adversary on the planet knows their choice is to leave America in peace or be blown up in fire and fury. Never seen before. Trump. That's interesting because there is a post that corresponds to this, and this is post 500, and it says, DEFCON 1, 4/10/20, fire and fury. 9 states of class ready to go live, 34 commands live, codes, command action, non-nuclear, 1 Owl 1. Very interesting. Toasted Rye says, well, that's very interesting. So 34 states, 34 commands. Under Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution, Congress must call a convention to propose amendments when the legislatures of the 2/3 of the states apply for it. With 50 states total, 2/3 equals 34 states. This process, often called a convention of states, lets state legislators push for amendments on topics like limiting federal power or fiscal restraints. But any proposed change will need ratification by 3/4 of the states to take effect. That's 38. For example, groups like Convention of State Action aim for 34-state resolution on specific issues, and official sources such as the National Archives and Congressional Research Services confirm this requirement. So that is very interesting, one way to bypass Congress. But let's see how this all plays out, and let's see what happens here. And like we said, Trump, he was visiting the Navy, and if you notice, he's letting the military every step of the way. He's letting them know that he's backing them. He has them. And just remember your oath. Because again, we're fighting an enemy within. And I do believe Trump is a wartime president. He's the commander-in-chief. And he's preparing the nation. But I do believe that with the people's backing, we're going to win against the deep state players. They're going to make it look rough. They're going to make it look scary. They're going to fight back with everything that they have. But since Trump has the military, he's the president, and the people are with him, nothing can stop this. Nothing. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.